That's a chilling situation. The letters from your deceased wife, especially one predicting a future event that came true, suggest something beyond a prank, possibly supernatural or a deeply calculated manipulation. The mention of August 3rd at midnight as your potential death date, tied to a confession about 2019, raises questions about guilt, secrets, or unresolved events from that year. Since today is August 1st, 2025, you have less than 2 days to act. Here's a breakdown of possibilities and steps to consider. Supernatural explanation. If the predictive letter defies rational explanation, e.g., no one else could have known the future event, it could imply a paranormal phenomenon. Your wife's connection to you, her knowledge of 2019, and the letter's timing suggest either her spirit or an entity using her identity is communicating. The demand for a confession might be tied to unresolved emotional or moral weight from that event. Human manipulation. Someone with intimate knowledge of your life and the 2019 incident could be orchestrating this. They might have access to details about your wife's writing style, habits, or private moments. The accurate prediction could stem from insider knowledge, surveillance, or coincidence. Potential suspects include close family, friends, or someone with a grudge related to 2019. Psychological angle. If you're under extreme stress or guilt about 2019, it's worth considering whether these letters could be a manifestation of your own mind, e.g., writing them subconsciously or misinterpreting events. Though less likely given the predictive accuracy, it's worth ruling out. Immediate steps to take: secure the letters, preserve them for evidence. Check for postmarks, handwriting, or forensic clues, e.g., paper type ink. If they're handwritten, compare them to your wife's known writing. If typed, look for digital traces. Investigate the prediction. Analyze the letter that predicted the future event. What was the event? Who else knew about it? Could someone have engineered it to seem prophetic? Examine 2019. Reflect on what happened in 2019 that might require a confession. Was it something personal, criminal, or interpersonal? Even if you don't confess publicly, writing it down privately might clarify your thoughts or reveal if the letters are targeting specific guilt. Monitor your safety. With August 3rd approaching, take precautions. Avoid isolated places, inform a trusted person of your whereabouts, and consider installing security cameras. If the threat feels credible, contact local authorities with the letters as evidence. Trace the source. If the letters are mailed, check with the post office for sender details. If they appear at your home, look for signs of intrusion or delivery patterns. If digital, check email headers or metadata. Seek help. Consult a trusted friend, therapist, or private investigator to discuss the 2019 event and the letters. If you lean toward a supernatural explanation, a medium or spiritual advisor might provide insight, though stay cautious of scams. Regarding the confession, the demand to confess suggests the sender believes you're hiding something significant from 2019. Without knowing details, I can't speculate on the act itself, but consider private confession. If the act was personal, e.g., an emotional betrayal, writing a letter to your wife or visiting her grave to express remorse might fulfill the confession if the source is supernatural. Public confession. If the act was public or harmed others, weigh the consequences of confessing. If it's criminal, consult a lawyer before acting. Trap possibility. Confession might be the sender's goal to expose or ruin you. Be cautious about sharing details publicly until you know more. The latest letter lay open on my kitchen table, its edges curling slightly in the humid August air. My wife's elegant cursive, so unmistakably hers, spelled out my fate in stark black ink. August 3rd, midnight. Confess what you did in 2019 or you'll join me. The words felt like a cold hand on my neck. I hadn't slept since it arrived yesterday, slipped under my door in the dead of night. No envelope, no postmark, just a single sheet of paper that smelled faintly of her lavender perfume. 3 weeks ago, the first letter had seemed like a sick prank. I'd found it in my mailbox, addressed to me in Sarah's handwriting, postmarked from our old address, the house we'd shared until her accident 2 years ago. I miss you, Daniel. I see you every night alone in our bed. Why didn't you save me? It read. I'd torn it up, assuming some cruel neighbor or estranged friend was toying with me. Sarah was gone, killed in a car crash on Route 17, her sedan crumpled under a semi-truck. I wasn't there. I couldn't have saved her. The guilt was mine to carry, but the letter felt like a violation. The second letter came a week later, hand-delivered again, this time tucked into my car's windshield wiper. You're still hiding it, Daniel. I know what happened in 2019. Tell the truth. My stomach had churned. 2019 was the year everything unraveled, the year I made the choice I've never spoken aloud. I burned that letter, watching the flames eat her words, but the unease grew. Then came the third letter last Monday. On Wednesday, you'll find a red scarf on the oak tree by Miller's Pond. It's mine. You'll know I'm watching. I laughed it off until Wednesday, when I drove to Miller's Pond on a whim, telling myself it was to clear my head. There, tied to the lowest branch of the gnarled oak, was Sarah's red scarf, the one she wore the day she died. I hadn't seen it since the police handed me her belongings, blood-stained and torn. My knees buckled and I vomited into the grass. No one could have known about that scarf. No one. Now this final letter. The deadline loomed, less than 48 hours away. I poured another coffee, my hands shaking, and stared at the words again. Confess to what I did in 2019. What did she, or whoever was behind this, know? That year I'd made a deal, a desperate one, to save our failing business. I'd crossed lines I swore I never would, lines that left blood on my hands, figuratively and maybe literally. I'd buried it deep, told myself it was for Sarah, for us. But she'd known something was off even then. We'd fought more that year than ever before, her eyes searching mine for truths I wouldn't give. Did she know? Had she somehow found out before she died? The doorbell jolted me from my thoughts. I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. It was 9:03 a.m., August 1st. No one visited me anymore, not since Sarah's funeral. I crept to the door, peering through the peephole. A delivery van idled in the driveway, the driver already halfway back to his truck. On the doorstep sat a small package, no bigger than a shoebox, wrapped in plain brown paper. My name was scrawled across it in Sarah's handwriting. I brought it inside, my pulse hammering. No return address, no label. I cut the paper open with a kitchen knife, half expecting something grotesque. Inside was a wooden box, intricately carved with the same floral pattern as Sarah's old jewelry case. My breath caught. I hadn't seen that box since 2019, when she'd packed it away after our last big fight. "You're not the man I married, Daniel?" she'd said, slamming it shut. I lifted the lid. Nestled in black velvet was a single item, a tarnished silver key, one I recognized instantly. It was the key to the storage unit we'd rented in 2019, the one I hadn't touched since her death. A folded note lay beneath it in her handwriting. "Go to the unit. You'll find the truth there. You have until midnight, August 3rd. My mind raced. The storage unit was on the outskirts of town, a place we'd used to store old furniture and business records when things went south. I hadn't been there in years, but I'd kept paying the rent, too afraid to face what might be inside. What truth was she talking about? Evidence of my deal? Something worse. I grabbed my coat and the key, driven by a mix of dread and desperation. If someone was playing me, they knew too much. If this was Sarah, somehow, impossibly, I had to know. The storage facility was a 20-minute drive, and I sped through the morning fog, the letter's warning echoing in my head. "Confess, or you'll join me." When I arrived, the facility was deserted, its rows of orange doors glinting dully under the overcast sky. Unit 47 was at the far end. The key turned smoothly, too smoothly, as if it had been used recently. The door creaked open, revealing a dim, musty space. Boxes were stacked neatly, not the chaotic mess I remembered. Someone had been here. In the center of the unit sat a single item that hadn't been there before, a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with Sarah's initials. My hands trembled as I opened it. The pages were filled with her handwriting, dated from 2019. The entries started innocently, notes about our life, her worries about the business. Then they turned darker. March 12, 2019, Daniel's lying to me. He thinks I don't notice the late nights, the calls he won't explain. I followed him last night, saw him meet that man at the warehouse. What have you done, Daniel? April 5, 2019, I found the papers. He thinks he's protecting me, but I know the truth. I can't confront him yet. I need proof. The final entry, dated the day before her accident. I'm going to the storage unit tomorrow. If anything happens to me, it's not an accident. Daniel, if you're reading this, confess, for both our sakes. My vision blurred. Sarah had known. She'd been piecing it together, and then she died. Was her crash really an accident? Or had someone, maybe the people I'd made the deal with, silenced her? And now these letters, were they her reaching from beyond? Or someone else using her journal to torment me? A noise behind me, a soft scrape like a shoe on concrete. I spun around, but the storage unit was empty. The air felt heavier, though, like eyes were on me. I clutched the journal and backed out, locking the door. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "You're running out of time. Confess. Where to take the story next, the narrative is at a turning point." Daniels found evidence that Sarah suspected his secret before her death, and the mysterious letters are escalating with a text message. The storage unit and journal suggest either a supernatural force or a human with intimate knowledge is behind this. The deadline of August 3rd at midnight looms, and the question of what happened in 2019 is central. If you'd like to continue, here are some options for the next part. Dive into 2019. Reveal what Daniel did, e.g., a shady business deal, a crime, or a betrayal, and how it connects to Sarah's death. Supernatural twist. Daniel experiences a clear paranormal event, e.g., seeing Sarah's figure or hearing her voice that pushes him toward confessing. Human conspiracy. Daniel investigates the text message or tracks down someone tied to 2019, e.g., a former business partner or enemy who might be sending the letters. The text message burned in my mind as I sped away from the storage unit. Sarah's journal on the passenger seat. You're running out of time. Confess. The words felt like a noose tightening. It was August 1st, 3:17 p.m., 2025, less than 33 hours until midnight on August 3rd. The silver key sat heavy in my pocket, and the journal's final entry clawed at me. If anything happens to me, it's not an accident. Had I caused Sarah's death without knowing it? Or was someone else pulling the strings, using her memory to unravel me? I couldn't go home. Not with the letters appearing at my door, not with that text from an unknown number. I drove to a diner on the edge of town, a place Sarah and I used to visit when life was simpler. The journal lay open in the booth, its pages accusing me. In 2019, I'd been desperate. Our business was bleeding money, and Sarah's dreams of starting a family were slipping away with every late bill. I'd met a man named Carver, a slick-talking broker who promised to save us. All I had to do was sign off on a shipment, no questions asked. I knew it was dirty, probably drugs or worse, but I told myself it was one time for her. The money came and we stayed afloat. But Carver's people never let go. They'd called me months later demanding another favor. I refused. A week after that, Sarah's car was found crumpled on Route 17. Her journal confirmed she'd suspected the deal. She'd followed me, seen me with Carver at the warehouse. She'd been digging, and the day before her crash, she'd planned to visit the storage unit, where I'd hidden the payout money, $50,000 in cash, in a locked box. I never touched it after her death, too ashamed. Had Carver's people found out she knew? Had they? The diner's door chime snapped me out of it. A man slid into the booth across from me, his face half hidden under a baseball cap. My blood ran cold. It was Carver, older now, his eyes sharp as ever. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Daniel," he said, voice low. "How did you find me?" I gripped the table, glancing at the journal. "You're not hard to track, especially when you start poking around old storage units." He leaned forward. "You got my messages." My mouth went dry. "The letters, you wrote them, in Sarah's handwriting." Carver smirked. "You'd be surprised what you can fake with the right tech. Handwriting's easy. Her perfume, her scarf, details sell the story. You were always too sentimental, Daniel." "Why? Why now?" My voice shook. "What do you want?" "You owe me," he said. "You backed out in 19, left me hanging with some dangerous people. They don't forget. That money in the storage unit, it's mine. But I needed you to open it to make sure you didn't run to the cops first." He tapped the table. "The confession, that's your insurance. You tell the world what you did, name me, name the deal, and my associates make sure you don't see August 4th. I stared, pieces clicking into place. The letters weren't Sarah. They were Carver manipulating me, using her memory to break me. The red scarf at Miller's Pond, he must have planted it, knowing I'd recognize it. The prediction. Maybe he'd orchestrated the whole thing, paid someone to tie it there. But the journal, how did he get that? "You killed her," I whispered. "Sarah, you found out she was onto us." Carver's smile faded. "Accidents happen, Daniel. She got too close, you should have kept her out of it." Rage surged, but I held it back. He was baiting me and I was out of time. "So what now? I confess you get the money and I'm dead anyway." "Not if you play smart," he said. "Give me the key. I get the cash, you walk away. No confession, no midnight deadline, just disappear." I hesitated. The key was in my pocket, the journal in my hands. If I gave in, Carver won. If I confessed, I'd lose everything, maybe my life. But Sarah's words echoed, "Confess, for both our sakes." Maybe this wasn't about saving myself. Maybe it was about her. I stood, leaving the journal on the table. "I'll think about it," I said, walking out. Carver didn't follow, but I felt his eyes on me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my darkened living room, the key in one hand, my phone in the other. I typed out a confession, everything about 2019, the deal, Carver's name, the money in the storage unit. I didn't send it. Instead, I drove to the police station at dawn on August 2nd, the journal and key in a bag. I wasn't sure if I believed in ghosts, but I felt Sarah with me, urging me forward. The detective listened, her face unreadable as I spilled it all. I handed over the journal, the letters, the key. "Check the storage unit," I said. "Unit 47, you'll find the money. And look into Carver. His real name's Michael Carver. He's tied to Sarah's death." She nodded, promising to investigate. "Stay safe, Mr. Hayes. Don't leave town." August 3rd came. I stayed in a motel, avoiding my house. The clock ticked toward midnight. I half expected a spectral figure, Sarah's ghost, to appear, or Carver's men breaking down the door, but nothing happened. At 12:01 a.m., my phone buzzed. A news alert. Local man arrested in connection to 2019 smuggling ring. Carver's face stared back from the screen, handcuffed. I exhaled, relief mixing with grief. The letters stopped. The storage unit was emptied, the money seized as evidence. The police reopened Sarah's case, suspecting foul play based on her journal. I wasn't free. My confession meant charges were likely, but I was alive. That night, I dreamed of Sarah. She stood by Miller's Pond, her red scarf fluttering. She didn't speak, but her eyes held forgiveness. When I woke, a faint scent of lavender lingered in the room. Maybe it was my imagination, maybe not. Epilogue: Daniel's confession breaks the cycle of the letters, exposing Carver and sparking an investigation into Sarah's death. The supernatural hints, Sarah's perfume, the scarf, the journal, remain ambiguous, suggesting either a paranormal presence or Carver's meticulous manipulation. Daniel faces legal consequences for 2019, but finds closure, believing Sarah's memory guided him to justice.